Good morning, everyone. We're so happy that you're joining us today. We'll just wait a couple minutes for everyone to get into our session here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I always personally enjoy watching the participant number rise as everyone joins.
Yeah, that's good.
It's always kind of fun.
So I found out yesterday, I got a robot over my shoulder, and we went in to take our first robot down to a real classroom, and all of them turned against me, all the robots. It was, none of them were working, and it was all for the same reason. And I figured out it was because we had been gone for so long and I had unplugged everything. And so all of the batteries and all of my classroom robots were.
It's 2020. The robots could revolt against us. You just never know.
I've got to ship them all to California.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, to get them replaced, but it's better than
All
buying
right.
mine.
Well, it looks like our participant number on Zoom has stopped rising, and we're also streaming live on Facebook. So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Sarah Heldman, and I am the Youth Recreation Coordinator at the Ability Center. I also have the privilege of overseeing our assistive technology lending closet that we've been able to start in the past few months here. So we're going to have a whole webinar on assistive technology, which is really exciting. But before we get started, I just want to remind you that we do have accommodations available to you. We have our lovely interpreter, Shelley, joining us today. And then we have closed captioning available as well. And then if you have any questions to ask us throughout, there is the option to use the Q&A, or sometimes the chat is available to you as well. And then on Facebook, you can ask questions there too. And we'll take some time at the end to get all of your questions answered or point you in the direction of some resources. So to get us started, I'll have each of our panelists introduce themselves. And if you can just tell us a little bit about your professional role in regard to assistive technology. So Brittany, if you wouldn't mind starting, followed by Carly and then Bill. To access caption, it should be down at the bottom of, someone just asked, down at the bottom of your Zoom, there should be a caption option there.
All right, good morning, everyone. I am Brittany Joseph, and I am a faculty member at Bowling Green State University, and I teach in our assistive technology program there. So I am an assistant teaching professor in the School of Counseling and Special Education. So within that school, we have an assistive technology certificate program for graduate students, as well as a Master of Education in Special Education with a specialization in assistive technology. So right here in Bowling Green, we offer programs to help teachers, professionals, and others who are interested in furthering their career in assistive technology or just learning a little bit more, be able to do that.
All right, and I am Carly Dowk. I am an occupational therapist. I'm a graduate of the University of Toledo in 2017, and since then have been working for the Wood County Board of Developmental Disabilities. And there I serve as the Health Supports and Provider Relations Coordinator. So I assist with occupational therapy needs and then also adaptive equipment and assistive technology needs of our individuals.
Good morning, I'm Bill Darling, and I'm the director of a little program at Ohio State called Assistive Technology of Ohio. It is a statewide program that all of our programs focus on the ways that technology help people with disabilities. We'll talk a little bit more about what all that means, but one of our main programs is that we have a statewide library of different types of technology that you can try out. One of the things that makes us kind of a unique program is that we're not specific to any type of disability or age group, but our services are available to any family, anybody impacted by disability, or the family member, or professionals in the field that can utilize our services. So looking forward to telling you guys about all those today.
Thank you. I keep joking with our panelists that we've assembled the dream team of assistive technology folks in Ohio. So thank you for all being here, and we're just thankful that you were willing to take part of your day to be here with us. So at the Ability Center, we operate as a center for independent living. So our goal is to promote independence for individuals with disabilities. And one way we can do that is with assistive technology. So can each of you take some time to provide us with some examples of how, or what is assistive technology and who uses it? Let's start there. I jumped ahead.
All right. So for me, do you want me to go first, Sarah?
We can go in the same order if you don't mind. So what is assistive technology? What does it mean?
All right. So when I think of assistive technology, I think of any item, any tool, and really any service that helps support individuals with disabilities. And that can be young children all the way up to older individuals. And when I say item, it can be something as simple as a pencil grip to something as extensive as a robot, like Bill was talking about earlier. And then services, we have to be able to teach our individuals how to use the technology, as well as their parents, their caregivers, their teachers. And that can be really difficult at times. Or it could be very simple, something that we just explain during a short visit.
Yeah, so Brittany said it exactly how I was going to say it. So it's really anything that anyone uses to participate in something more independently and effectively. So I say anyone because all of us use it, right? So we all have our cell phones, which is a computer, which has our calendars, it has Google, it has apps. So everyone uses it, all ages, all ability levels. We all on some level use assistive technology to be more independent and to do something more effectively.
And one of the ways, I look at technology, technology is a word that everybody kind of knows what it means, but you probably never really think what the definition of technology is. It's just technology. But technology is basically the applying scientific knowledge for practical purposes to make, and almost all technology, the reason it exists is to make life a little easier for people. So to make things that are difficult to do easier to do, or something that would take a lot of people to do it, maybe one person can do it in a shorter period of time. So basically what technology is for is to take people's physical limitations and try to accommodate for that and make them more productive. And so in a sense, the term assistive technology is kind of redundant, because assistive is kind of a made-up word that Congress made about 30 years ago, and it applies to people with disabilities. The only time I've ever seen it used is in front of the word technology. But in a sense, all technology is assistive technology. I don't know, I honestly don't know how to turn on the lights, but I know how to flip a switch that turns on all the lights. I don't know how to start my car, but I know how to flip a switch that starts my car. So when you look at technology that way, the field of assistive technology makes perfect sense, because they are, we're dealing with a subset of our population that has, physical challenges. There's something that they don't do well, or they're lacking, and they're just setting up technology to deal with that fact. So assistive technology is really just part of everyday life. If you look at the greater field of technology that way, we're all dealing with physical limitations that technology help us through. And so it's really nothing different for people with disabilities to use this type of equipment to be more productive or more connected, or whatever they're looking to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great definitions. I would only add a little bit to it, if I may, is that I think a lot of times when people start thinking about technology, they think about things that require batteries or that plug into the wall. And I always try to highlight, I was showing everyone my pens before we started. So a colored pen or a highlighter can really be considered assistive technology. Low tech, right? It doesn't require batteries or plugging in. But it helps me achieve independence with being coordinated and knowing what I need to accomplish next, or highlighting material. So could you all provide us with some examples of how assistive technology promotes independence for independent living? So at home or at school, for employment, or just to be able to participate in the community. And we'll keep following that same order if you don't mind, Brittany.
Sure. I think I'm going to take the school approach first. So I'll talk about, the younger children. So I teach primarily at BGSU are pre-service teachers. So those who are aspiring teachers, that really their dream is to teach either preschool, special education, general education, preschool to grade 3, or those who plan to teach kindergarten to grade 12 special education. I also have a population of graduate students that come back to learn a little bit more about assistive technology as well. So I prepare them to learn about the whole assistive technology assessment process, which I could talk about all day, but there is actually a set process that we teach that follows step by step. What do students need? What are their needs? Who is the student? And we walk through that very detailed, interviewing the student, interviewing the parents, observing the students in some of their natural environments, where they're in school, what they're doing at home, where they struggle, and what their needs are. And then we collect all of that data, and then we trial some assistive technology. So we try some things out, we decide, did that work? Did that not work? And it's kind of a little bit of trial and error at times. Sometimes things click and we get it on the first try. Sometimes things don't click, and we're trialing things a number of times. But we don't fit the technology to the student. So we don't say, I think everyone on this caseload should get an iPad and an Apple Pencil. It doesn't work like that. Or we sometimes have school principals that say, well, I have a closet full of laptops. Let's just give this young man a laptop. It doesn't work like that either. So we look at the student and we pair the student and the student's needs to the technology.
Yes, so working with the Wood County Board of Developmental Disabilities, it's a very community-based position, right? So we work with people everywhere. So I did an example for each. So they're just quick examples. So at home, one of my favorite pieces of technology that I will talk about later is an Alexa or a Google Home, right? You see the commercials all the time. Many people probably have one. So you can use something that simple to set up a routine. So maybe just saying good morning to your device, and that could turn on the lights, start the coffee for you before you even get out of bed, right? It could tell you the weather so you know what to wear. Do I need a jacket today? Do I need an umbrella? It could do all sorts of things. So those are great for the home setting. For school, another one of my favorites are just simple apps, right? So the visual schedules are huge for a lot of people. And so you can do something as simple as printed pictures with Velcro, or you can do something like the ChoiceWorks app, which is an electronic version of a visual schedule for people. So those are great. Work, we often recommend watches, whether that's a watch minder or a smartwatch that can provide cues. It can be a vibration cue, or it could be text that comes across the watch as a cue to maybe stay on task, or to have reminders to do certain things while you're working. And then finally, for the community, smartwatches again, or other GPS watches that can allow people independence to go out and do things, and to have help if maybe they get lost or they need to know, they need directions. The GPS within those watches can allow caregivers to know that the individual is safe, that they're getting to where they want to go, or maybe they need some help and they need some direction. So those watches also even have that two-way communication ability where you can walk someone through some directions, maybe to get to where they need to go, or just help them in any way to navigate their community a little bit better. And another cool device that I love is sight canes. So they have sight canes, your standard sight cane, or they get really fancy and they have GPS navigation that will talk to you and will walk you through where you're going. It'll even verbalize different landmarks in where you are. So maybe there's restaurants, maybe there's a library. So I could go on forever because I love assistive technology like we all do. So, you know, there's examples in all areas of life, but those are a few of my favorites.
Well, I mean, it is kind of a wide open question. The reality is you could pick up almost any piece of assistive technology equipment that would be considered AT, and that's what it's for, to promote independence, to promote productivity, to help people in the area of work or school. You know, we have a program for kids in school that have visual impairments, where we work with schools to get them the kind of equipment they need, CCTVs, so they can have the material blown up for them so they can read it, but also it has a camera that you can point towards the front of the class so that you can see everything well there. Some of the things that we have been dealing with, a part of our program that we've been growing recently is just the desire for people to live at home, and realizing that they can be at home for a while, or they, if it's a situation where the parents have to work and a child or adult child is going to have to be at home, there's technology that you can put in place that allows the people that are caring for and caring about that person to get good information about what's going on in the house without having to have somebody there, without having to have cameras mounted everywhere, to make sure that things are going well. And we have, you know, lots of different solutions depending upon what the specific nature of your disability is that we can implement into the world of work, to work areas, different ways to interact with a computer, different types of keyboards and mice, different ways to speak to a computer if that's an ability that you have. And I think just looking at the screen right now, one of the things that's been amazing about the pandemic is that, you know, we have all realized, people with disabilities for a long time have fought that I can do work if you'll let me do it from home. I can't be there every day. Physically, I'm not able to do that. And that's been a barrier, a hurdle for them until everyone got in the same situation where I can't go to work. I you know, my office is closed, but I need this job. I need to figure out how to be productive. We were joking, I'm from Worthington, which is a suburb of Columbus. This is the Worthington branch office of our West Campus office at Ohio State. We do the majority of work from home now, but you see that it can be done, right? You see that so for people with disabilities, this, I think ultimately on the other side of this pandemic, it may end up being a real bonus for people with disabilities, because there is a much greater understanding of how you can do things, you know, online. You can have meetings, you can talk to people, you can be productive. I wasn't the least bit worried this morning. At 9:50 when I logged in, it's going to be fine, because this is the 1,000th Zoom meeting that I've been a part of. Whereas when the pandemic started, I was always terrified that everything was going to fall apart. So, you know, we have made tremendous progress with the different types of technology that are going to allow for greater possibilities for people with disabilities in the area of education, independent living, and employment.
Absolutely. I call it one of my COVID silver linings, that we are really in a position to advocate for the use of technology right now, because everyone is using it. So it's set us up well to advance some things in assistive technology. So I think some individuals maybe that are watching right now are thinking of some barriers that they have, or you know, hurdles to overcome. So they're able to identify those barriers, but then how do individuals determine which assistive technology is appropriate for them, and who are some of the supporters or professionals that can play a role in that?
So I think, Sarah, I started answering that question in my last response. I was working ahead. I was working far ahead and thinking assessment. But I think that everyone in your life plays a role in some way in supporting you when you're using assistive technology, or when you're identifying, what's an appropriate assistive technology for you. But in a school setting, it's certainly your IEP team that starts that process and the ball rolling for assistive technology. There's actually a question on the IEP form that says, has the team considered assistive technology? Check yes or check no. Some teams immediately, I've had teachers admit to me, we didn't even know what assistive technology was, or we thought we were doing it because the student had access to an iPad or a laptop in our classroom. Well, that's not necessarily doing it, and that's not necessarily consideration. So doing a full assistive technology evaluation and ensuring that that student has access to assistive technology is really important. And then sharing that with the IEP team. And that decision should not just be made by one person. It shouldn't just be made by the classroom teacher or the special education teacher or the occupational therapist or the physical therapist or the speech language pathologist. It should be a team decision. The parents should be involved. The student even should be involved. Everyone should be involved in that collective decision making. And then from there, the decision goes forward like I had talked about previously. And I didn't get a chance to talk about independence. So I'm a huge proponent of independence. As a mom of a son that has autism, I've been advocating tirelessly, basically since he's been, a toddler, for independence of everyone with a disability, and especially him. So it's, very near and dear to my heart. But I think we're gaining some traction, and I think we're getting there. I really love what Bill said about, once those, CEOs and presidents of those companies saw every one of my employees can work from home right now, like, this is revolutionary, absolutely revolutionary. And I think that everyone is finally getting it. So I think good things are to come.
Yes, so I would agree that everyone on a person's team or everyone in their life is important for determining what assistive technology might be appropriate. But sometimes if the person is able, just a quick Google search, and you could come up with ideas even on your own. I do that all day long, even for myself, for my family, for individuals that I work with. Just look it up, research and try to see what's out there, and you might be really surprised with what you find. But of course, and to add, there's so many things off the shelf that are available that you may or may not know that exist. So that's amazing too, because I'm sure, as we all know, anything, as soon as you add assistive or adaptive to the front of it, it becomes harder to find, more expensive. So just some of those off-the-shelf things are a great way to start looking at technology. So some of the people who can help with this process, so of course, I think Brittany covered the school setting beautifully. So in addition, occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech language pathologists, assistive technology professionals, there's a whole gamut of professionals who go to school and dedicate their work in their life to helping people to find things that can help them be more independent and make their lives easier. So there's a lot of professionals out there, and you can find them in the school setting, in your county board of developmental disabilities, in whatever county you live in. You can find them on an outpatient basis. Assistive technology professionals, there's a website that you can search those to find RESNA certified assistive technology professionals. There's lots of ways to access professionals to help you, but sometimes the easiest way is just a quick Google search.
Sorry, I'm muted. I guess, am I all right now? Can you hear me now? I shouldn't have muted myself. I'm pretty good at being quiet. One of the things you got to realize about some of the, there's such a wide variety of what is considered assistive technology. And most of the things that we deal with are not something that would, actually make you see better or hear better, but they just account for the fact that you have a deficit there. There are certain types of assistive technology. One would be, augmentative communication device, a speech generation device for people that are nonverbal. You got to have a speech language pathologist do that particular assessment. You can't just have somebody say, well, I know about these different types of devices. I know which one would be best. There are certain types of visual equipment that you need an optometrist to be able to be the one to designate which type of device would be best. But a lot of them, you get by trying them out. You narrow it down to a certain category. There are so many different types of models to figure out, to follow how to do an assistive technology assessment. I learned about them in grad school. And scholarly people will argue about which one is best, but generally you're just looking at things that Brittany covered. You got to have multiple people looking at the issue. You got to consider things like cost. You have to consider things like how receptive is the family to having technology brought into their lives. I've had so many instances in my career where I had the perfect piece of technology, took it to a house, barely got it out of the box, and they determined right away that it wasn't appropriate or it was too complex. And it probably wasn't, but there hadn't been enough talking about it and preparing people and, maybe showing them a video and getting them comfortable with the idea of bringing something like that into their lives. The one thing I would stress for this assessment, we have assistive technology professionals and we can do assessments. Our area of expertise would probably be considered different ways to work with a computer, different ways to access and utilize a computer. That's an entire field in itself. But when you get down to a certain category of device, I think one of the best ways to do an assessment is to do it yourself by trying out multiple devices. And that's one of the programs that we have we can send you 2 or 3 different types of devices to try out. You can have them for up to 30 days, and that gives you a chance to actually see it at home or in the classroom or whatever it is that it would be used. The best way to familiarize with it, to pick the right one, is to know that you've already tried it. And the loan closets, the thing like the Ability Center, the assistive technology lending programs, those are great because, sometimes the best information you're going to get from the company, but the company does want to sell you the product, and they're going to probably oversell or try to make your situation fit to their product because they're in business to do business. And that there's nothing wrong with that. It's not any different than buying a car, but in a situation, in programs like this and the one that they have at the Ability Center and ours as well, you get a chance to try something out, and we don't have any we don't sell them. We don't have any vested interest in whether you end up buying product A or product B. We're going to try to get you the right one. We're probably going to try to get you the one that's the least expensive for you, and will be right on point. So trying out different devices, I think, is a huge and important part of of making the right choice in the end, in the whole assessment process.
And just something to kind of piggyback on what Bill said, the last thing that we want to have happen is for the individual that we've just spent all this time with and all of this energy identifying the perfect device. We don't want them to abandon that device. We see that all too often.
The worst word in the field, abandonment.
Right. And especially when you work in a school district and you've gained the trust of your principal, your superintendent, they've invested in this. In some cases, if you're working with a student that's nonverbal, if they've invested in a very expensive, speech generating device or even a Braille note taker, I've had that happen. And then your student abandons that device. They have a really bad taste in their mouth about assistive technology, your superintendent and your principal. And then when you go to, ask for money for your next student, it's frustrating for them, and they'll ask more questions, and you'll have more challenges facing you as you're trying to get funding for your students. So I had that happen in my career, and I would just, you know, be prepared for students to abandon their devices if you don't teach everyone on the team how to use it. So your parents need to be trained really well so that your students using it on the weekend, and then they remember to bring it back to school on Monday. And then also the teachers on your team are trained really well to use it as well, so that they're using it from class to class to class. And they're also bringing it from class to class to class. It's not just sitting in their locker, or they're just leaving it at home. We want them to use it everywhere they go. We want it to be in their book bag, or on their person, no matter where they are. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've certainly made the case that assistive technology can help overcome some barriers for individuals with disabilities or for anyone. So can we speak for a little while about what funding opportunities are available to secure assistive technology? So the financial piece of things.
Sure, so I'll speak from the school district standpoint. Again, through the IEP process, school districts certainly play a role in funding. So there are a lot of different funding sources, which everyone will talk about, and they can certainly help support the purchase of assistive technology, but there are a lot of different funding sources. So schools can be responsible for paying for assistive technology, and those assistive technology devices, a lot of times, parents will ask me, well, can my child take that device home on the weekends? Can they take it home with them over summer break? And the answer is yes. And students can also, what's the other big one? I'm trying to think here. Parents always, oh, over winter break, spring break, things like that. The device goes with the student as the student takes breaks from school. And then you can work with other partners as well. There are certainly grants available. I know Autism organization in Toledo funds a lot of iPad grants and iPad apps. They're phenomenal and very well known for doing that. There's a lot of really great nonprofit organizations in the Toledo area that are super supportive. Tammy Eisenreich always gathers all of these really great grants, funding opportunities, if families do experience trouble with funding. And she works or volunteers for Autism Foundation in that respect to kind of put together a really comprehensive list of grant funding options if you run out of and exhaust all of your other options for funding.
Yeah, so Tammy is a phenomenal resource. I use her all the time. So she's definitely a great place to start when it comes to grants. Additional services could be, of course, your local county board of developmental disabilities. So we have a few different funding sources that we can help to tap into. So we have local funds that are available for individuals who are not on HCBS waivers. And then we also, if an individual is eligible for and has a home and community-based service waiver, they can use that Medicaid waiver to purchase assistive technology. There's different pots of money that they can use for that. So that's a great resource. And then we can also assist in submitting things through insurance. So we have a contract with an agency that assists us in submitting things to both private and Medicaid, Medicare insurances. And we've had success in getting some assistive technology covered, which is amazing. So that's an option. OOD, or Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities. If the assistive technology is related to work, they can assist in finding the resources or assist in getting payment for assistive technology to help with work-related needs. Brittany already touched on the school setting, and of course, which we've mentioned, all of the loan closet options. So the Ability Center has a wonderful loan closet. AT Ohio has their loan closet. There's a ton within the state. The Wood County Board of Developmental Disabilities, we also have a loan closet of assistive technology and adaptive equipment that you can try before you buy it. I agree with what Bill said earlier, that sometimes one of the best ways to really learn about a device and see if it meets your needs. And of course, I've seen people use things like crowdfunding, like GoFundMe, right? If you have a need, I see a different GoFundMe pop up on Facebook almost daily. So that's an option. And as I've mentioned as well, all of the off-the-shelf stuff. So look for your Black Friday sales, right? Look for those holiday sales of your off-the-shelf technology to find something more affordable. I know in certain months, speech generating apps or devices are discounted. So there's always options. You just kind of have to reach out to your team and find those resources that are available.
You guys have covered a large part of it. You know, funding is a challenge, and especially for one of the reasons we try to get people low cost solutions is that because some of the solutions are very expensive. Some of the technologies do come at a steep price, and it is a tough field it's a tough field for people to make their living creating devices for people with disabilities. You know, if your business model is, I want to make expensive technology for people that don't have a lot of money, that's not, you know, that's a wonderful way to spend your life, but maybe not the greatest business model. So one of the ways that these companies, and one of the first things they have to do is to try to get their product, maybe even before it hits the market, get it approved by Medicaid or Medicare, recognized that as a helpful product, something that has had research done on it. And that goes a long way towards getting stuff paid. What we're going to do, especially if the devices are expensive, is we're going to try to encourage you to get involved with a government program, OOD, the Veterans Administration, workers' comp, whatever it is, because those are the main sources, the schools through the IEPs. These are the main sources, other than, you know, people just paying for it themselves. This is the main source of getting stuff funded. And this is where families and people with disabilities need to become self-advocates. One of the things is that if you look at a certain system or insurance program, and if you just ask the generic question, do you cover assistive technology? They're going to say yes. But the question is, are they going to pay for it for you? Are they going to pay for it for your situation? They're going to say, yeah, sure, every situation that's appropriate, we're going to spend the money and make sure that they get what they need. And we know that that's not the case ultimately when it comes decision time. So you got to educate yourself. A lot of times having an assessment done shows that it's not just your idea, that it's a good idea, that we've had professionals look at this. It's being an advocate and having some work done in preparation to show that this is a needed device. We've already seen it work, and this will make a difference. It's going to make it a lot easier to get it approved. So it's a team effort getting stuff paid for. It's not as simple. There's no list of things that they will automatically pay for. It does not exist. That it's a case by case basis always. And that's one of the big challenges for our field is getting stuff paid for. But you can, in almost every system, get assistive technology paid for, but it may require some prep work and some advocacy work to get people to agree to it and show them the impact that this device will have in your life.
Thank you. So can you each speak a little bit to your professional role in the organizations that you work for, the school that you work for, and how you help individuals gain access to assistive technology or any other services that you offer in regards to assistive technology that you'd like to share? Brittany, you're kind of unique in the educational aspect, so.
Absolutely. So my paid job, my paid gig is obviously at Bowling Green State University. So in that realm, you know, I spend most of my time teaching assistive technology courses to undergraduates and graduate students who are teachers on the undergraduate side or planning to become teachers on the undergraduate side. And then on the graduate side, again, teaching mostly assistive technology courses to those who are looking to further their career, learn a little bit more about assistive technology, retool so that they're better prepared to support the growing number of students with disabilities and those who need assistive technology support. They're out working in schools, hospitals, therapy centers. I have students that work in veterans hospitals, and they know that the need is out there, but they feel like nobody knows what they're doing. And so they come back to school to, you know, get retooled so that they can get back out there and do this important work. We see the field growing and growing and growing, which is really exciting. And it's changing and ever changing all of the time, which is also pretty cool. So education is a huge part of what I do. And then to keep me going and keep my cup filled, I volunteer a lot. So helping families, also helping other professionals in the community stay excited and energized about working in the disability field. So currently I'm serving as the chair of the Northwest Ohio Autism Provider Network. And so that is a group of professionals working in the disability field here in the Toledo area and in Northwest Ohio. And we're kind of a support group in some ways. We get together about 5 or 6 times throughout the year and provide support and guidance to one another on a variety of different topics happening in the community. It's a really important group because we want to maintain the professionals and expertise in Northwest Ohio. We don't want people, you know, graduating from the University of Toledo like I did, and then up and leaving and going to the West Coast and taking all of their knowledge with them. We want them staying right here where they belong. So that's a pretty cool gig. I also helped start an inclusive childcare center in Port Clinton, Ohio, where we serve young children and older children as well, with and without disabilities. So it's a very inclusive center, and we do some assistive technology supports there. That's a pretty cool place. So very rural and not a lot of access to services for those families, but we're making progress. So that's a little bit about what I've been up to.
Yeah, so with the my professional role at the Wood County Board of Developmental Disabilities, we obviously have our occupational therapy services. We can do assessments to see what would work best, and then we work with a lot of technology vendors to help find solutions. And then we assist, like I said, and we write letters of medical necessity to help and get things covered through insurance or to submit them to their waiver. We just assist in referrals. So we've referred individuals to Ohio State University, to different wheelchair vendors, to the Northwest Ohio Site Center. So we act as a link also to help link people up with the appropriate referral source to help meet needs. Like I said, we have an assistive technology loan closet, so that's great for helping people to try things before they buy them. We have our amazing Twin Tech model home, which showcases remote support technology as well as assistive technology. So that is my baby that I helped to bring to Wood County to allow people not only to tour the place and to see and touch and try different equipment, but we also have the option Not currently with COVID, but we typically would have the option to allow individuals to stay overnight and to be completely immersed in the technology to try it. So that's been an amazing resource that we were able to start in receiving a remote support grant back in 2018.
And and a couple things that we Carly touched on, basically one of the roles of any assistive technology program is if you're not the place that they should talk to, but you know where they should go, then you send them on to that place. Information and referral. One of the great things about being someplace that doesn't sell things, we really are working to get you the right answer. So a lot of what we do is trying to get you to the right place where there's a chance you could get something paid for and get your questions answered. One of our programs that's a little different beyond, we have this, our statewide library has probably 400 or 500 different pieces of technology. That sounds like a lot, but it goes across the whole age spectrum and all the different types of disabilities. But one of the unique programs we have here in Ohio, at least through the Assistive Technology Network across the country, is that we have a program for people that don't have where people can obtain a computer. We take donations of old computers and we use OSU students to rip them apart and upgrade them, and they have a blast. It's okay because everything's out of warranty, but we take computers and get them as competitive as we can. And then for just a nominal fee, it's usually $60. We can have that delivered. You'll get a computer, a monitor, keyboard, speakers, mice, and one of the things that's important about that is that people with disabilities are the least likely among us to actually own a computer and know how to use it and have an email address and know how to do a Google search. And so that we think that's an incredibly important area of life. That if you try to, when we talk to college students and just special ed teachers or whatever the case is, just imagine if you were dropped here at the University of Toledo or Bowling Green, and you're here to be a freshman and you don't know how to use a computer. You have no idea, and you just watch their eyes and as they walk through their week or their day. I mean, they turn in papers online. They just, everything they do seems to be online. They do research online. They write their papers on a computer. So in that area of life, having a computer and getting familiar with it, it's the one area of life where almost everything you know about it is something you taught yourself from the time that you've spent on it and figured it out yourself. So we think that's incredibly important. And even if it's for a child with a developmental disability that might struggle with interacting with the computer, you never know. I mean, every step you take it leads to 4 or 5 other steps. And so many things are available online through apps and things like that, that just getting them online we think is incredibly important. So you're not going to get a great computer through this program, and so some people are a little. It's our most popular and our least popular program, depending on how familiar you are with computers. But it is one of our programs that changes lives, because if you get someone who's never been online before, you can get them online and get them started. They start to see possibilities they never knew existed before. So that's another one of our programs that it's not really disability specific, but it is set up for Ohioans with disabilities.
Yeah, and then I will take the opportunity to speak to what we've been doing at the Ability Center. We were able to launch an assistive technology lending closet this summer. We're calling it Tech for Rec, and rec standing for recreation, education, employment, and community living, which are areas that we focus on for independence. So we have close to 250 items in our closet now, which is really exciting. We have all different switch adapted toys, leisure items, instruments, games, alternative input and output devices for computers like adaptive keyboards and mice. And then we also have devices as well. So we have Kindles, iPads, and Chromebooks available. People that are consumers of the Ability Center, which you can become a consumer by just calling the Ability Center, can borrow from the closet for up to 90 days. It's free of charge. We just want to work with you for much of the process that we've been talking about on this webinar. So to partner you with the device that we think would work best, and also to set some goals with you for independent living. And we're also collaborating with a lot of partners in the community. So Carly and I talk, I think, almost on a daily basis about assistive technology. So if you are a professional that's supporting individuals with disabilities, you also have the opportunity to borrow from that closet as well, to help out the folks that you're working with, or to use it for an evaluation or to gather data for short-term accommodation, or you just want to trial something to make an informed decision. So we're really excited about launching that program at the Ability Center. There's a portion of our website dedicated to Tech for Rec, so you can find out more information. So there's several of you that have questions, and I don't want to dismiss your questions. So as we are gearing up to finish up here, we're going to have a short show and tell. Everyone's kind of brought their favorite or a favorite piece of assistive technology to show off. But some of you have questions about borrowing from our closet or specific needs in the regards to assistive technology. I'd really encourage you to call the Ability Center so that we can work with you individually and partner something that's specific to you. A lot of you have asked for the resources for funding for assistive technology. I can ask for our PR manager to post those for me after the website. Bill, there's just a comment to you that Assistive Tech of Ohio Lending Program has been a wonderful tool and easy to access. So that's awesome that it's easy.
Wonderful, thank you.
So continue to share it with families and coworkers at the County Board of DD, Lucas County. Yeah, and then there were just some other questions about specific tools for specific individuals, and I'd encourage you, let's have a one-on-one conversation about that so that we can really narrow in on what would be most beneficial for you. So Brittany, do you have a piece of technology you want to share? As I kind of browse through these questions too, I might interject.
So I have, I could have shared so many different things, but as I was thinking about this, I was raised pretty modestly, I would say. I didn't have a lot. And I would always go with my grandparents to garage sales and auctions. And I would always dig through all of the junk. So I am an assistive technology DIYer in every single way. I like to do it myself. And I really like to take the broken and the beat up stuff and fix it and get it working again. So my suggestion or my show and tell is this. When you find things or when you see things that are being donated, or I follow a lot of social media pages for assistive technology, and you can't afford the greatest or the best or the newest, get it cheap and then find somebody that can tear it apart and get it working again. I have never bought a switch adapted toy from a vendor. I've always made my own. And I usually make them from Dollar Tree press lights, those little, you know, I don't even know, the little, you press it and it lights up. So my suggestion is DIY.
Okay, so my favorite piece is, no surprise, our Twin Tech remote support model home, which I was going to be at, but I couldn't, so I'm not there. But I'm going to send some links to some virtual tours to Sarah so that we can get those posted as a resource. We're not doing in-person tours and stays right now, but we are doing virtual tours. So that's my favorite piece. But I did bring a couple other things. So Amazon Echoes, I love them. I love the Google Home. The brand doesn't necessarily matter, but these are off the shelf, fairly affordable, and they can do tons of things, right? Your Amazon can give you a routine or a schedule, like I had previously mentioned. It can do smart home controls, like controlling smart appliances, controlling your lights, turning your lights on and off, controlling your thermostat to make the temperature adjusted to what you need. And then they also make Amazon Echo buttons. So they're buttons that are actually intended for gaming, but they also work for the smart controls. So you can use buttons much like you would use a switch to control maybe your lights or other smart technology. if maybe you are working with someone, or you are someone who's nonverbal, or maybe sometimes Echo or the Amazon doesn't understand your voice. So I know sometimes that can happen. So if that happens, the Echo buttons are another choice, which you can activate by touch in a variety of ways to control anything that the Amazon could control. So that's one of my favorites.
All right, and Mike, just real quickly, I have over my left shoulder is one of our favorite little programs, which are a telepresence robot program. We started with this 3 years ago with a kid who was a very unique case. He had breathing issues, lung problems, and needed to not go to school because of the problem of getting sick. And so we were able to put what's called a telepresence robot into his classroom. And then his name was Jacob. He was able to beam in from wherever he was, at home or children's hospital or whatever, and have that in-classroom experience without having to risk going to school, because school is a place where you can pick up a lot of quick illnesses and things like that. And in this coronavirus world, it's been really interesting that the reasons for this program have expanded and grown to include situations where it may be the mom or dad that has a health condition. The child is not the person with the disability in this situation, and so they felt that it would be a more dangerous situation to have that child just go to school, come home with COVID-19 to a parent who can't afford to get it. And so we've had a lot of interest in this. I was just sharing earlier, because of COVID and because of the fact that we were out of the office for several months, I've got a lot of dead batteries and a lot of things that need to be replaced in these robots. But essentially, it's a FaceTime on wheels kind of situation. You can't see the bottom of that unit, but it's basically a little Segway that has an iPad on it through an app. The company is Double Robotics out of California, and the kids, wherever the kid is at home, can be at home and just log in every day, as long as they're on the internet and the robot is on the internet at school. And that robot will move throughout a classroom. It can move throughout the school. If you have Mrs. Johnson for science next period, you can go down the hall and pull into Mrs. Johnson's room. And so it's been a really unique way. We've used it a lot for kids who are going through cancer diagnosis, which may not be the population we're speaking to today, but for kids that have to be, for disability or medical reasons, removed from a school environment for an extended period of time, say a semester. It's been a really neat thing to be able to bring into their lives, because it's a very challenging and difficult time in their life already. And this keeps them in contact with their friends and their teachers, and it lets them know they're part of a greater community, which can be a real benefit to them as they face their challenges head on. So it's a fun little program. We don't have an unlimited number of robots, but we're trying to get as many as we can out to schools to help kids in that situation.
Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. I have one too. So we've been expanding our closet pretty rapidly. So this, I didn't take it out of the box, but this is a pretty neat mouse. It's available commercially from a company called AbleNet. But this mouse is a regular old computer mouse, but it's actually controlled by your eyes. So where you're looking manipulates the mouse to move your cursor to that portion, and you calibrate it specific to a person. And I remember the first time I saw eye gaze technology being used, I felt like I was in an episode of like the Jetsons cartoon or the Twilight Zone or something. But it's very beneficial for individuals that have limited mobility but have control of their eye gaze. They can manipulate the mouse. There's also voice output devices that are orchestrated the same way. So just really, really neat technology that's available to us. I'm excited to have that one available in our closet. We will post a bunch of resources under our webinar link on our website. So some funding opportunities, videos for the Twin Tech House. And then again, we would just encourage you to reach out to the Ability Center if we can help you with assistive technology in any way. If we can't help, then we, as Bill alluded to, certainly point you in a good direction as well. So Thank you all again, Brittany and Carly and Bill, for joining us here today. I'm so excited that we all got to be in the same Zoom room together. So more to come.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Brittany.
Sarah. Appreciate it.
Yeah, talk to you all soon. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
Bye.
Bye.